Our culture has a popular myth around the word humane. Apparently it's inhumane to kick a dog or a cat, but it's completely acceptable and humane to encage another animal for its entire short life and then put a bolt through its terrified skull. Now they are both terribly inhumane and it's impossible to argue that otherwise. But I've been talking to a few people who are meat eaters recently, and it's kind of brought me a revelation as to why these people still eat meat even though they fully agree that it's completely an inhumane practice. It's because of fear. People are scared to stand out in society. And declaring yourself a vegan, not eating meat or animal products, is standing out because we are very much still in the minority. And it's perfectly understandable why that is. Our society, our culture, teaches us conformity from a very young age, from school upwards. Stand in line, use manners, say please or thank you, even if you don't mean it. Sit down and be quiet in class. Only speak when you raise your hand. You mustn't do that or I'll tell you off. All these things teach us to conform to the whims of others, no matter what their reasoning is behind it. And if you want to know why villains and criminals of the past are often romanticised, it's because they break these conventions and live their lives by their own rules. And when people from the past, or really famous people, are so removed from you to relate to, that can seem noble and heroic. But when someone does it who you're close to, when someone tries to break convention who you know, that can seem like a personal attack to some people. So a lot of people, when they get older, they don't want to stand out. They blend in. Society teaches us to blend in, and a population which blends in is much easier to control after all. Now what all this teaching does to us is it creates an ego around us, a shell around us, and that shell is our perception of how we think we should be from what society and parents and teachers etc. have told us we should be. It's not us. And people get very scared of breaking out of that shell. I mean, when you start breaking that shell, there's no going back. And you can't truly be free, you can't truly be yourself until you break that shell apart to discover who you are. And that's the reason why many people who are vegan say the process is liberating. Making that decision has changed their entire life completely and made everything a whole lot better, not just on compassionate grounds. But because we're programmed with this fear, and we're also told that we shouldn't be scared, we have a very hard time breaking this shell, especially if you're male, where masculinity is key. The irony is, and there's a lot of irony in this pattern, but facing your fears and standing up for what you believe in is surely the most masculine thing you can do if you want to take gender stereotypes to their full dimensions. So if you challenge anyone's beliefs or anything that forms part of this shell, people can get very angry because after all, fear is much easier to convert into hate than love. Now the opposite of all this is to accept your fear. And when you actually accept these fears, nine and a half times out of 10 you realise that there is nothing actually to fear and you can let it go. And that's when you start picking away the shell and you start freeing yourself from this contained little life. And a lot of people who have turned vegan have done that. That's what they're doing, that's the process they're going through, and it's a very liberating process. But in a society where killing is so much part of the system, that we have it for breakfast, lunch and dinner and supper, it's difficult. To kill is to conform. And I truly believe that's why in places like America we have massive crimes like gun crime and mass shootings. After all, if you're taught to conform, but you still have a deep desire to stand out, how do you do that without breaking your shell? Well, you just conform in the most extreme way possible. And that comes out as hatred due to all the fears you have contained in this shell. You conform to what the movies glamorise, you conform to what your government does to other countries through warfare, you conform to what people do every single day through their dinner plates. So I think fear is the only thing that really gets in the way of people's compassion. They disconnect from that reality. They disconnect that what they're doing, what they're eating, what's on their plates is directly linked to killing animals. They're effectively paying someone to imprison, torture and kill animals on their behalf, when there's an abundance of other food available on the planet which doesn't involve any of that. But if you don't understand fear, if you don't know how to accept it, it can be very hard to overcome it. And that's why people like me get a lot of hatred. That's why vegans get a lot of hatred. That's why people who break conformity and try and stand out in society and make points which differ from society's conventions and views have a lot of hate put against them. It's because they're breaking down this shell, and it offends other people because they know that they're still stuck in this shell of fear. So what's the answer here? The answer isn't to have a go at people who eat animal products. It's not to get angry at them. That just escalates and creates more problems. The answer is to help people pick away at this shell, help people learn the truth. I believe that there's only ultimately two feelings in this world, and that's fear and love. And you either subscribe heavily to one or the other. And a lot of people, they're in this stage where they're still indifferent about which one they're subscribing to. People like Donald Trump subscribe fully to the fear camp, and they try and exaggerate other people's fears into hatred to get them to follow him. It's a bit harder to get people into the love camp because our society teaches so much that love is a bit of a mamby-pamby thing. You know, it's not masculine. People have gone out of their way to try and get people to fear that side in particular, which is ironic because all the fear is over in the hate camp. But once you liberate yourself, once you get over here, once you start picking away that shell, that's what you've got to do to help us, to help yourself, to help the planet, to help animals, to help everything in this world and the world we're on. It's the only path which will truly free all of us. Now it's up to you whether you believe that or not, but even if a bit of this video has struck a chime with you, but at least consider it, at least think about it. Don't just discredit it and climb back into your shell. Thanks for watching.